I have absolutely no idea where this conversation's going to go. That's how this show's going to start. It's going to be, that makes two of us. It's me, Frank Ray, and my good friend, Brian Stevens. We're going to hang out and shoot the breeze, man. That's what we're going to do. We're going to cover a lot of bases, I'm sure. We'll try to stay away from some subjects because it's just not right. But, pretty much nothing's off the table. We're just going to have a conversation about the mortgage business, man, and see what's going on. So, Brian, man, thanks for being here.
Well, thanks for having me, Frank.
Well, how's it going?
Well, I think I have in psychiatric circles would be referred to as an existential crisis going on right now. But outside of that, things are great.
So pretty much normal.
Pretty much normal. Yeah. Things are interesting, I mean, they're interesting. It's kind of, you get a little bit older. Me and you've been at this a long time together too. And you just, we just go with the flow, and the ebbs and the troughs and all those things. And you just have different perspectives and different outlooks on life. And this latest once in a lifetime, disaster in the mortgage space has given me a different perspective. I'm coming at this from a 50-year-old guy's point of view, not a 35-year-old guy's point of view. And it's a different one. And so it's interesting.
It is. It's the journey that you and I have been on has been pretty weird, for really weird. A couple of old mortgage hacks, and to go from origination, pre-crisis origination, to subprime, insanity, to crash, absolute crash. And then for you and I to find ourselves in the spotlight as, mortgage dudes, that people paid attention to quite regularly, and to continue down that path for many, many years, and now find ourselves here today where, we're in this particular market. I mean, with looking back on everything, Brian, everything you've been through, and the different aspects of the industry that you've been involved in, is because we've been in some different, in different aspects, and a lot of people have the privilege to be in. I mean, what are you feeling now? What are you feeling right now for the mortgage industry? Let's talk about the industry. What are you feeling about the industry right now?
Well, it's like it's always been. It's been in flux. I think that's the thing, Frank, is the industry has always been in flux. It's always been transitioning. It's always been fluid. The thing is that most of us haven't identified it because we haven't really been sitting around and thinking about what's the nature of the state of the industry. It was happening around us, but it didn't happen in a manner that clobbered you over the head with a mallet. We've had those mallet opportunities in 2008. We're having a mallet opportunity right now. So it does make us look at what the heck is going on in the mortgage space, but it's always been there. And I think what it's really kind of shown me, and I would love to give you guys some really great insight that's just going to blow your mind. Sorry, but I'm just about to disappoint you. What I really kind of look at now is I look more introspectively. That it could be my age, it could be my experiences, for which we've had many, and I've said we've had probably, arguably, the most unique outlook on the mortgage space over the past close to 20 years now.
Yeah.
And as I look at things right now, I look at control. Because a lot of loan officers and realtors, you're out of control. You feel out of control. And then in life, you really kind of look at things and what do you control? I think I said this to you before. My daughter moved down to San Diego.
Yeah.
And she sent me a text in the middle of the night. And if your daughter sends you a text in the middle of the night, that's never good.
Right. Yeah. It's probably not just, hi, Dad, love you. In the middle of the night, what's going on?
Yeah. 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And I didn't get to talk to her till 6 o'clock in the morning, but by 3 or 6 in the morning, I was, angst ridden. And what it really came down to, Frank, is like, what it made me realize is like, I'm not in control. I can't I can't do anything about it. She's 700 miles away on the opposite side of the state of California. Saw her living her life. She's got her own control. As I told you before, my dog of 14 years just passed away. Those are kind of big things, family-wise. And then you look at your business and you say, wow, I don't agree with these policies. I can't believe we don't have the inventory. What in the heck is going on with rates? Why did we give everybody money? And we get so fixated on these things. But the truth is, like my dog, like my daughter, like so many components of our life, they're things that I believe I had control in, but I really don't.
Mm.
And the only thing I can do is I can control myself, my behavior, my actions, my values. Like that's all I can do. And so if I were to, in hindsight, take Brian of today and put myself back in that market and all the subsequent years that we don't, those are the topics that we don't talk about. And we were just, and we kind of look at the whole thing. My perspective right now about really kind of focusing on myself and what I could do better myself rather than worrying as much about the external things that I don't have any control over, I think would have benefited my origination business a ton.
Mm.
It certainly would have helped with our headspace. And
Mm.
I really think kind of focusing on this guy rather than focusing on that guy or that gal
Mhm. Mhm.
is probably the most important lesson that I think I've learned over the past couple of years, certainly over the past 6 months.
I would agree with you 100%. I think if we can like we had the conversation earlier, I said I'm just not worried about anything. Everything's minutia. I have a goal, right? You know my goal. I got a 3-year goal, and
Yeah.
that's all that means anything to me right now is the goal. Everything on the outskirts of that is just minutia that I'm not even going to get involved in. And I'm just going to stay focused on what I'm after. That's what I'm going to do. And so I agree with you. So in a sense, though, we'd have to say that not a lot has changed, right? I mean, hasn't it always been that way? If we're going to be honest,
It,
you
it
know?
it really it really has. I mean, we haven't noticed a lot of the changes that have taken place in the mortgage space because there hasn't really been a need to do it.
Mm.
We have guidelines that are changing, loan amounts that are changing. Rates have always been up and down. I mean, that's
Yeah.
taken. We've never seen the oh my God, look at how great things are to I can't believe how horrible it is the next day.
Yeah.
We've never seen that before.
Yeah.
But I think if we were to kind of really look at the things that we can control inside of our business and really inside of ourselves, I think we would have seen that for what it is. A moment in time, so don't lose your mind over it.
Yeah.
Kind of have a decent perspective about things. Or as the great Stoics of the world would wax and wane philosophically about, there was a great line by Marcus Aurelius. He said, treat victory and defeat the same. That was one of his great lines. And in our business, we look at these things in some fashion as being successes or in defeats with rates, our production, our relationships with our agents. And the truth is if rates are 14 or if rates are 2% or 8%, if we treat our business the same, that's where you're going to find victory, according to one of the greatest generals in the history of mankind. So if it's good enough for him, I suppose it's probably good enough for me. Control what we can control and try to just understand that these are just moments in time.
Let me ask you this. Totally get that and agree 100%. But let me step outside of that a little bit and ask you something like this. You have your finger on the pulse of the industry as a whole, and more than anybody I know, and you always have. And for those of you who don't realize this, that when me and Brian were working together doing the National Real Estate Post together, like I just showed up and read scripts. Like Brian did all the research, had all the stories, knew everything that was going on. I was just like, I just looked pretty. I was like the eye candy of the show. I like the but seriously, you've got your finger on the pulse of the industry more than anybody I know. Um, and and when I say that, I mean you have your finger on the pulse of the big stuff, and you've got your finger on the pulse of the nooks and crannies too, of what's going on out there. A lot of it, so you're well rounded in just the industry as a whole. With the advent of AI and the market and companies that are closing and all, do you see the industry changing for us as originators, where our day to day, Brian, is going to be significantly different, say in 5 years? Do you see that on the near horizon, or do you see something further out? 10
No,
years,
no,
20 years. I mean, what do you think?
that was like Sam Cooke saying, "Change is going to come," right, Frank? Change is
Yeah.
going to come. It's always kind of been here. Hey, listen, as a loan officer, you have to understand that your employer wants to fire you. Just accept that right now.
Mm,
They do. And Frank and I've talked about this, quite a bit. The truth
mm,
of the matter is, you're the most expensive component in the process. If they can find a way to cut fees, you're the most expensive fee. I want to get rid of you.
mm,
This is the way the market has always been going. This is the thing. This is how it's always been. Same thing for real estate agents right now.
Yeah.
That, by the way, is an orchestrated attack on the real estate industry that's being perpetuated by big tech. Another conversation for another day. As far as lenders go, yes, I mean, everything is an automated verification, isn't it? Everything is. Even appraisals at this point, if we chose to. You know what I've really found that's interesting is we have made it so easy with technology in one facet, right? But we have made it so unbelievably ridiculous with compliance in another facet that it requires a loan officer. It's absolutely insane what we've done from a compliance and a regulatory end of things. To make things better and easier for consumers, it now requires a loan officer to help them get through this stuff because it doesn't make any sense anymore. So we've made things easier and we've made things harder. But again, here's kind of what I think. I think at the end of the day, and this might be my age, but I think at the end of the day, that it's not fair to have a conversation about buying a book on Amazon and buying a house. And that's the analogy that everybody always makes. Well, you can buy this. We got Carvana over here. We got, Duolingo for languages there. We've got, we got all these different sites. But a house is something that's fundamentally different. When you buy a car, you don't have to have a licensed salesperson. When you buy a car, you don't have to go through 300 pages of crap. When you buy a car, you don't have to get an $800 appraisal. You know what I mean? It's a different process. So I think that we've made it complicated enough to where there's always going to be room for somebody to help.
Okay.
Is it a modified word? Is it maybe somebody working in dual capacities or realtor lender? I don't know. I mean, everybody's trying to do that now, we know. But what I know that they cannot do, and that's on a macro level. What we cannot really accomplish is on a micro level. I'll tell you one right now. I was having a conversation with, I think it was Ed and Tom, Ed and Joe, the Rapisardas, right?
Yes.
And I heard, and to let you guys know, they're both involved in lending and real estate locally. And I heard one of them say to the other as we were talking, he says, "Hey man," he's talking to his brother, his actual brother. He goes, "What are you doing this weekend?" And he goes, "Oh man, I'm going to the Bulldogs game. That's our local high school football team."
Right.
Now, these are guys who are in their 50s, right? 50s, and I don't know how old Ed is, but let's say around our age. And here's what I know that's going to take place. He's going to go down there and sit at this game. He doesn't need to go to the game. He wants to go to the game. This is what he's choosing to do. This is his default gear for fun. This isn't work.
Yeah.
Okay. And when he goes into those stands, I already know he's going to shake 50,000 hands of people who already know him because everybody knows him in Solano County, went to school here, all of that crap. And when he sits down in those bleachers, he's going to look at somebody he recognizes 3 rows up, and she's going to say, "Hey, how you doing? How are the kids?"
Yeah.
And then he's going to say, "They're doing great. How's Tommy doing with his soccer?" And that's something that technology can't replace. You can't put somebody in the stands at a local baseball game. You can't put somebody on that pickleball court. You can't put somebody in that riding group. You can't put somebody in your church. These are the type of things that I think have sustainability for real estate agents and lenders. However, what we need to do is we really need to understand our role. Like, when was the last time you as a loan officer sat down and said, "Who am I? What am I supposed to be? What are the tools required? What am I supposed to fix? And how can I actually make somebody's life better?" Like, have you actually thought about that? I think these are very important questions. Somebody just posed to me where Dave Savage said a couple of days ago, he goes, "How many lives have you been able to affect for the positive in the past 6 months?" And I thought, and I said, yeah, so I could see Dave Savage going, "Hey bro, like, how many lives did you affect?" That's my Dave Savage, right?
Pretty good impression. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
To be fair, he's our friend. We know him. He doesn't. Well, he used to not live far from us. I don't know where he lives now, but
I think he's in Oregon. But here's my point. I started thinking about this. I'm like, you know what? That is arguably the most important question you can ask a loan officer. It really honestly is. Like, how did you affect a person's life? Okay, what put you in a position to do that? Now, we know right now that people are carrying more revolving debt than they ever have. We know that. Absolutely true. We also know that the Fed Reserve is trying to bankrupt people by keeping the Fed fund rate and those credit card rates as high as humanly possible. I think they're doing it on purpose to get them to either foreclose or do refinances and get them out of those threes, because that was a big mistake. But whatever the reason, so we know that there's a lot of pain points with our clients, our friends, our neighbors, our community. And if you as a loan officer actually have the skill set and the tools to go into that person's life and take some of that pressure that they're feeling right now, which is enormous, and you can alleviate some of that and put them in a better financial situation, I'd argue that you don't have a professional obligation to do it. You also have a personal obligation to do that.
Hmm.
Because if you were embodying what Dave Savage had said, hey man, how many people's lives have you been able to affect for the better? Well, if I really look at my business in those terms, then I need to go out there. I have a personal and a moral obligation to speak with those clients because I've got the solutions. It's when we choose not to look at our business, and when we choose not to look at our business in that fashion, that we tend to neglect our clients. It's why
Hmm.
75% of the people who get a refinance don't do it with you. They do it
Hmm.
with somebody else.
Hmm.
It's because we're neglecting our database. I'm saying go back to your database and talk with your database, not only because that's where you're going to find money to sustain yourself, but go to your database because right now they need you. They
Yeah,
actually do.
it's like it's almost more of a moral obligation if you
Yes.
care about them to just reach out and say, I can help you, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
And here's the point. And this is where it gets real sticky here. Is back in 2008, I remember being at Chris Belsky's house, and this is a new subdivision where everything was gridded out.
Yeah.
And I remember looking, every house was like, they built 1 million houses. It's an area called Natomas. They built 1 million houses in like 2 weeks, and there was like 100,000 people. A whole city is crazy.
Mm.
But everything was gridded out. And I remember everyone bought it once, and everybody foreclosed it once. And you could look down this street, and you could see like 6 blocks down, and every house had a sign in front of it with dead grass.
Mm.
Every single one of them, as far as you can see.
Wow.
Every single one of those people could have done a modification or a short sale. They could
Yeah.
have. Maybe
Yeah.
they did. But the vast majority of people, and we have precedents now, we know this to be true. Most people aren't going to deal with their problems. They're going to stick their head in the sand and wait for the sheriff to show up.
Yeah.
Now, when we look at those who are behind on their mortgage payments right now, 30, 60, and 90 days, and we look at our recent upside down equity in certain markets, it's starting to get as big, if not bigger in some areas than what we had in 2008. Now, we already know what human behavior is. The vast majority of them aren't going to take the steps necessary to fix their
Mm.
situation because that's uncomfortable. It's
Mm.
not going to the dentist, right? I'm
Yeah.
not going to go to the dentist because I don't want to deal with it.
Right.
Well, great. Now you're going to have to get a root canal in 2 years. So it's the same thing we're doing with our houses. So your clients aren't going to reach out to you. So you can't just sit there and wash your hands of it and say, oh, my friends and my family, they didn't reach out to me. So how the hell am I supposed to know? Well,
Mm.
you're supposed to be a professional. You know this information. This is your skill set. This is your knowledge set. And because we know they're not going to reach out, then we have that moral obligation, Frank, not only professional, but moral obligation to reach out to them in some
Mm.
capacity and say, hey,
Mm.
hey, listen, I know this right now. I know that 75% of people who are behind, or excuse me, 50% of the people owned houses out there right now. And I know that there's 50% of those who are carrying more debt than they can hold on to.
Mhm.
I know I just read an article that said the new car association of America group came out and said the average credit score and the average down payment of their average borrower has dropped by 40% over the past 6 months. People are finding stress points right now, and these are all canaries in the coal mine that should tell us we have to be proactive in our approach. Sitting back and saying, "Hey, I know they need help, but I'm waiting for you to come and court me,"
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
really work. We need to be proactive in reaching
Yeah.
out to our clients.
Or it's not, I'm waiting for you to come court me. It's like, man, I wish somebody would call me, you know,
Right.
instead of
Yeah.
just calling. Steve Kyle's brought up who works with animals. He found the stat somewhere where, that the disc profile, right? The DI, you know, SC or whatever it is, right? The disc
Yeah.
profile. Well, I guess that the vast majority of Americans, like 62% of them are an S. Okay. For whatever that means. I don't even know. I can't remember. But what it does mean is these are people that really, they just want to be led. They prefer to be led. These are the people when we get a referral and they come to you and say, hey, Sally sent me over to you. I want to get pre-approved. What do I do? Right. They want to be led. They want you to take them through the process and help them along and tell them what their rate's going to be. They're not the ones that are like, I'm going to shop you, and I'm going to determine this, that. No, but the vast majority of the people in America simply want to be led. And that goes in right in hand with what you're saying. If you got a database of people, there's probably a lot of them that are hurting right now, but they just need someone to lead them. They need someone to step in and say, hey, are you okay? Or are you not okay? And if they say, no, I'm not okay, then help lead them to a better place, right? To help them out. So good points, man. Really,
Yeah,
really good stuff.
I just saw they say only 12% of homeowners shop to their mortgage.
Hmm.
So 90% of the people, they're not shopping the mortgage, and
Right.
because once they get the answers that are in front of them, that's what they're going to run with.
Hmm.
And we see, by the way, we see that in the mortgage space now, don't we? I mean,
Mhm.
I go onto any social media, I swear to God, you can't swing a dead cat around without hitting 9 coaches. I
Mhm.
mean, look at there's everybody's coaching. Why is everybody coaching right now? Because everybody's looking for solutions.
Mm.
So what happens for a lot of these loan officers who want to be led is they're going to these sites, these fly by night people who have been doing this terribly long, and they're saying, "Hey, you profess to have the answers, even though you don't have a track record of doing any of this, but you profess to have the answers, right?"
Mm.
And so that becomes very appealing. That becomes, really appealing.
Mhm.
Um, Whereas the truth of the matter is that we ought to be looking at, oh, I have a lot of questions right now about my business. Well, maybe my clients have a lot of questions about their situation and their circumstance.
Mm.
Maybe
Mm.
rather than me looking outside of myself again, hey, let me go find the answers from a charlatan. Let me go find answers from within. Oh, here's my answers. Here's what I know. The people that I've worked with in the past, who I've been so fantastic at keeping in touch with, they need my help. I need to find a way to answer their questions for them rather than the questions for me.
Mm.
And again, I'm not knocking like any of these coaching platforms. I'm not. I'm just making a simple observation that in the past 6 months, 5,000 have showed up where they didn't exist 6 months before,
Mhm.
and we have
Mm.
to ask ourselves questions like, where did all of this come from?
Mm.
And it's because of the whole idea is like, hey, there seems to be a need for loan officers to go reach out, and real estate agents to find questions to their answers. What I'm saying is, loan officers, the questions that you have, you need to be answering the questions from your clients. Look to help them
Mm.
rather than help yourself.
Mm.
Service, by the way, Frank, I know that you're a spiritual man.
Mhm.
The whole idea of service as a loan officer, where do we need to be right now? Service.
Mm.
Look to your clients and see how you can be in service of them. Look to answer their questions, and you'll find more peace of mind and you'll find more success with your business by doing that.
Mm.
I guess that would be my point.
I love it. Thanks so much for your insights. And I would say this too. Not only your clients, but with your referral partners as well. We call them, a lot of people call the real estate agents referral partners. I do. I like that name. But really, something that, now that I'm back in the origination game and I'm engaging with real estate agents again, like, right. But one thing I am realizing, Brian, is that term real estate partner, the word partner in there needs to be legit. It needs to be legit. And you really need to understand that, like, hey, when they send you a referral and you call and they don't answer, and then you text the agent back, go, yeah, I left a message, and then you forget about it, right? For 3 days, 4 days, you need to understand that your quote unquote partner on the other end, right, is like, what's going on? Are we
Depending on
partners? Are we partners or not? I mean, you think about it this way. We're in a business, Brian, you and me together. We're in a business and we're selling things, and a sales inquiry comes in and it's on the desk. I mean, what do? Do we just stare at it at the desk, or do we, hey man, what's going on with this inquiry? You know what I mean? Hey, you working on this inquiry? I'm working, we work together to see what's going on because we're partners, right? And so I hope that the listeners who are listening to this podcast fully take to heart what you said and understand that it is the truth. We do have to embrace our past clients, go out there. Morally, we're obligated to see if they need help and lead them to a better place. We really need to look at it that way. And I would also include our real estate referral partners in that as well. Understand that they're your partner. If you really want to have great success with great real estate partners, then partner with them.
Look,
Understand that every lead that comes through is important, wildly important, and we need to understand what's going on and communicate well and work it to its fullest extent. All the while communicating it, and then that'll make a really big difference because you know you're an actual partner with them at that point, if that
let
makes
me
sense.
let's I'd love to give you this example. So about making that call. So I went down and did a thing with NAM at their Vegas event, like I don't know, year and a half ago, whatever it was. And we got their list. And so I said, okay, we're looking for a wholesaler. So let's reach out to the wholesalers who are at NAM, and let's kind of see if there's any synergy there. So we send out an email, send out a blast to them, and then we get we get some calls back, we get some inquiries back, and then we don't get some. So I decided that we were going to send out a follow-up email campaign to these folks. And I decided, well, I'm going to call them. I'm not going to email. I'm going to call. So I call this gal up. True story. This is crazy. So I call this gal up. I said, hi, how are you doing? I'm Brian Stevens. And she says, hi, my name is so-and-so. Where are you at? I'm down here in Atlanta. Oh, okay. So why are you calling? Well, I was at NAM, and we're looking for, actually, I think we even had her name wrong. I think, but then I said, oh, so we're looking at, we got their list of wholesale lenders who were there. She goes, well, I haven't done wholesale in 2 years. I go, okay, so, okay, all right. And I get, and I, and I go, well, what do you do? You know?
Yeah.
She goes, I deal with warehouse lines. She goes, well, what do you do? She had no idea who I was. No idea, because we just got
What?
right. But so it's now this is kind of what I do. Oh, that's kind of interesting. Okay, what do you do? Well, that's not what I do. This is my name. This is where I live. I had everything wrong. And I got warehouse lines. I'm like, well, I was looking for partners in wholesaling, but I've never really looked at warehouse lines. And I said, truth be told, I don't know a lot about them. So I really can't have a conversation with you.
Yeah.
But I've always wanted to learn more about it. So as this conversation is going on, she mentioned somehow we were talking about family, just personal, how you just jabber jaw with people. And she goes, yeah. She goes, where are you at? And I said, well, I'm out here by Sacramento. She goes, get out of town. She goes, my husband lives in Folsom. I said, well, that's really interesting. Why does your husband live in Folsom if you live down in Atlanta? Now I'm just kind of giggling and laughing at this point. And she goes, oh, he's got work over there. And this is when the Kings were playing. And she's saying, oh my God, we're huge Kings fans. Who in the hell lives in Atlanta, Georgia is a Sacramento Kings fan?
Yeah.
People in Vacaville don't even like the Sacramento Kings. Okay. So she goes, well, listen, I'm going to go visit my husband in Folsom here in 2 weeks. And I said, well, then why don't you come by our office? She goes, I would love to do this. So we subsequently had additional conversations. Oh, and then we sent her and her husband like the Sacramento Kings jerseys and shit, like, just that type of stuff. And we developed a relationship with this lady in a segment of the mortgage space that I know very little about. And here's the thing. Had I not called her and sent an email or sent a text message, she would have looked at it and said, wrong name, wrong vocation, wrong company, wrong everything. Don't know these guys, bye.
Stop, unsubscribe.
But because I chose not to communicate with those forms of, because I chose not to try to communicate in other forms with other forms that we could do, like text messaging and emails, the only way that I was going to get that answer was from actually talking and getting to know a person. So as much as people don't like to pick up their phone and make that call or make that follow-up call, you don't know what's on the other side of it. And a phone is still the only device that you have that's going to answer those questions that are unanswerable or won't get answered with instant messaging, texting, or emailing. Now, you can actually call that person's client that Frank was talking about, and you can say, oh my God, this isn't going to go anywhere. And maybe it won't. But you never know until you figure it out. But here's the thing. They might have a rich aunt.
That's right.
I spoke with a person who couldn't qualify for a house. And I said, why are you leaving the house that you're in? He goes, because my friend's going to sell it. Why is your friend going to sell it? Oh, he can't afford it anymore. Why can't he afford it anymore? Well, he sold his business. Why did he sell his business? I don't know. That seemed like a pretty dumb thing to do. Yeah. You killed the golden goose and you ate it. That seems pretty stupid to me. But here's what I said. I go, so when's he going to sell the house if you have to get out of here? He goes, well, he's going to sell the house here in, next month. So then what I did is I took my referral source, bloop, 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 called my referral source up and said, hey, by the way, appreciate the opportunity with that client you sent to me. It's not going to work out. Their credit's too low. We're going to try to help them with a rental. But here's the
By the way,
and that house is going to get listed here in a month. And why don't you be the first person to go over there and talk with them about it?
Yeah.
So again, where can you take these conversations? So like, let's not quit making assumptions about it. Again, getting back to my point, my Dave Savage point here. How many people whose lives have you been able to affect? And then going out there and doing your due diligence as a professional. It opens up so many more opportunities. And Frank, nobody knows this better than you. Nobody knows this better than you. Well, the big opportunities that we've had, we tripped on them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. I love the way you took the conversation too, because you're what I'm getting from you is when you, first of all, the conversation is critical, having the conversation. And once you're on the conversation, be genuinely curious, about more than just your immediate need. Right. Just be genuinely curious and ask questions, because you never know what opens up from there, and you never know where things go from there. And a lot of times it's good things and they go in good directions. You know what I mean? So, well, listen, man, we've been, shooting the breeze here for over 30 minutes, and I think it's time to get out of here. I can't thank you enough though, bro, for
love it, man,
jumping on here and just shooting the breeze. And yeah, we'll do it again, man. Let's do it again next month. And or something like that, and just shoot the breeze again, see what's going on.
Hey, or you could return the favor because I do these video things still too.
Yeah. Well, what do you mean? What do you want me to do? I missed
Well,
that.
I'll interview you next time.
Oh, anytime. I'm a great interview. Yeah, trust me.
Oh,
Trust
all
me.
right, man.
Once you get to know me, you know.
Yeah, I might have a little insight. No, you remember that time in Michigan?
Yeah. Don't bring that up. Anyway, or that other time. Or that other time.
Or that other-
So anyways, Brian Stevens, everybody, dude, thanks so much, bro. Always good to hang out with you, and love your insights. And man, we'll just come back again. Yeah, I'll jump on the National Real Estate Post. You let me know. Our mortgage shots, you come back here too, and we'll just continue to shoot the breeze. Sound good?
Yeah, it sounds good. And you say hi to the family for me.
I certainly will. And back at you. You guys have a great one. Thank you, Brian. And thank you to everybody else for listening. Tune in next time here at the Mortgage Loan Officer Podcast, brought to you by the Mortgage Marketing Animals. We'll see you later.
Later, guys. Bye.